Welcome to the show. I'm Danella, and here's what's happening now. Can you believe it? December already. Man, this year is just flying by. I hope you had an amazing holiday weekend. In fact, my holiday weekend of Thanksgiving is prompting in our world. This week we're going to be talking about you don't know how good you have it. Yeah, we'll get more into that in just a moment. But first up, let's jump right into political pop. Here's your political pop for today, Friday, December 1st. U.S. urges all nations to cut ties with North Korea. That's what's happening. That was the big news this week. After, about 2.5 months, North Korea tested another missile. Why was this one so important? Well, this one was huge because it traveled the furthest in history. And now, this is what experts are saying. Experts are saying that North Korea now has the ability to reach the U.S. mainland, specifically our eastern seaboard, right? Including our nation's capital. Yes, and so Trump is heated. Trump, in fact, asked China specifically to cut off oil supplies. That's major. Now, here's one important thing is although the missile does have the range to hit the U.S., experts are saying that currently, North Korea isn't able to miniaturize a nuclear warhead. So that's what they're saying. And this is major news. In fact, South Korea is hoping that North Korea does not attack them, but that also us here in the U.S., that we don't jump the gun and attack North Korea first. Still praying for peace. And that is your political pop. Now, I want to share another story with you guys. You know, I talk about this, right? The robots taking over. Well, listen to this. A new study came out, and the study said this, that robot automation will take 800 million jobs by 2030. Specific date. 2030. This is according to a new report. This is the McKinsey Global Institute. They did a study of 46 countries and 800 occupations. So let's talk about here at home in the U.S. So they say rich nations like here in the U.S., also Germany, we're going to need to retrain our people for other jobs. Yes, they say poor countries that have less money, they don't have to really worry as much about automation as richer nations do. Hit hardest, these are the jobs: machine operators and food workers. Hit hardest. Also, these are other especially vulnerable occupations to automation. They include mortgage brokers. I didn't think about that. Paralegals, accountants, and other back office staff. Yes. In addition, they're saying any jobs that require human interactions. Now we're thinking doctors, lawyers, school teachers, caretakers. You guys, safe. You guys are safe. Specialized lower wage jobs such as gardening, plumber as well, also safe. That's good. It's important to note though, here's what they say. In developed countries, jobs that require less education, now those jobs are going to shrink to automation. And so if you're in a job that has lower education, what they recommend is that you're going to need to educate yourself on a university level in order to stay employed in the future. In the US alone, 39 to 73 million jobs may be eliminated by 2030. That's what this study is saying. Now, they say, but 20 million of these displaced workers may easily be able to transfer to other industries. So what this report is doing is they're urging all of the nations to actually plan to retrain their citizens. So why I want to talk to you about it is in case our government doesn't say, hey, plan to retrain, you're getting an early warning now. Think about it, 2030, that's not that far away. If you're somebody in a vulnerable field, think about either retraining or other fields that you can get into that are less likely to be taken over by automation. And now it's time for In Our World. This week we're talking about you don't know how good you have it. This topic came up at Thanksgiving. In our home, we are a multicultural family. And so when political topics get brought up, it gets heated in our household. But I'm sure you can understand because haven't you had grandparents? You've heard this before, the idea of you don't know how good you have it. You know, I used to walk to school 40 miles in a blizzard. 40 miles, come on. You didn't walk 40 miles. Was it a blizzard every day? Come on. But that's what a lot of older generations say to the younger generations. And in some ways, it is true. We do have it easier, especially with technology. But I saw two topics that came up this week that I wanted to bring up. Because these are things that we as Americans, we do every single day and we take it for granted. I can tell you this first news article that I saw, it stood out to me because this is something, if you follow me on Facebook, this is something that I do frequently, and that is post about what happens in our world, in our government. You know, I talk about it so freely, but can you imagine being jailed for that? This week, 22-year-old blogger in Vietnam was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Have you heard about this? All this guy did, Nguyen Van Ho, all he did was post about a toxic spill, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. And back in June, the blogger, better known as Mother Mushroom, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. It was crazy. Think about how blessed we are to live in a country where we really can say how we feel. We can post on Facebook and not be arrested for 7 years. It's hard time, 10 years, hard time for merely just saying the truth. If I go back to my Facebook page, I can see if I were in another country, I would easily be jailed or worse, killed. And imagine being jailed for loving someone, In Egypt, happened this week. Egypt convicted people of being homosexual. On Sunday, 14 men were convicted of being homosexual and sentenced to 3 years in jail for, quote, abnormal sexual relations. In fact, back in September, they had a huge concert and folks were arrested in this concert. People were arrested for just holding up a rainbow flag. Can you imagine? I mean, just to love. That's a basic human right, to love who you want to love and not be persecuted for that. So I wanted to bring up these stories for us to really just think about it, because so often, especially like at the end of the year, this is a time of reflection, especially as we gear up to the new year, just different things to think about. And so, you know, the holidays come. If you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever your holiday is, and you're sitting around with your family and you hear the wiser elders in your family say, you know, you don't know how good you have it. That's how they sound to me all the time. You don't know how good you have it. You know what? Stop and say, you may be right. You may be right. And thank you for reminding me. And be appreciative for these everyday things, everyday blessings. So thank you so much for joining the show. Hey, thank you for your well wishes on Thanksgiving. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. I hope you have a tremendous weekend as always, and I will see you next week.